Hi, everyone. My name is Mickey Hudson, and I am going to be doing today's Facebook Live Christmas in July. So I have some techniques I'm going to be talking about and some tricks, and I'm going to be showing you feet and embroidery and tricks on the various PFAFF sewing and embroidery machines, and we are just going to make some fun Christmas stuff. These are more to give you some ideas for Christmas in July because, as you know, we start planning for Christmas if you like to sew. So again, I encourage questions. Again, my name is Mickey Hudson, and I'm going to talk a little bit about embroidery. I'm going to talk a little bit about sewing, and I'm going to mention the MySewNet, but this is not a MySewNet embroidery live, so I'm just going to be mentioning it. So here we go. So what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be turning these little blocks into an embroidery, a Christmas wreath. And I know many of you have seen them before, and we're going to go ahead and do it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is I've seen these wreaths many times with just the fabric and stitched together. And I'm never happy with that. So I tend to want to embellish. And that's where we're going to get into it today. So where I've embellished is I have stitched every other block. So every other square that I have done decorative stitches. Now the decorative stitches, this is where I'm going to talk about some of the different ways we can use our machines, our PFAFF embroidery, our PFAFF and sewing, and our PFAFF accessory feet to make all of this much easier. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the feet. So here I just have some fabric already pre-cut. Now technically when I am doing a project, I actually will cut my pattern piece a little bit bigger than I need when I'm doing the stitching, because stitching can tend to shrink a little bit, the fabric. So I like to do my stitching and then cut everything to size. But for the magic of Facebook Live, we're just going to go ahead and do it all on camera. So some stabilizer. So we're going to throw some stabilizer on here. And I'm going to go ahead and mark a line down the center of, I did not bring my ruler here. Hold on 1 second. Just grab a piece of paper. I thought I brought my ruler over, but no such luck. So don't you love it when it's live? Because everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So I'm just going to draw a straight line down the center of my line. So this is just one of those heat away marking pens that you can get at your local dealers, quilt shops, etc. So that when you're done with it, if you touch it with an iron, it goes away. Now what the hesitation was I grabbed my ballpoint pen, so I had to take a second. What we're going to be looking at here is the multi-line decorative foot. So we're going to use the multi-line decorative foot. So this is for those of you that do not have laser guidance or anything like that. This foot is quite handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pop off my foot, my current foot. And I'm going to pop on, oops, you don't want to see me. I'm going to pop on the multi-line decorative foot. Need to take off my integrated dual feed for this. Oh, hello. All right, there we go. And I'm going to use my stabilizer underneath. And what is so cool about this, let me pop this right into get the camera right in front so you can just see how, oh, this gets stuck every time. There we go. When I say this gets stuck every time, it's the little cord that keeps me from moving this over. So one of the things that you can see here is all these little marks on it. Each one is 1/4 of an inch away from the previous one. And even these little crosshairs here, this one is the center where the needle is. And these are all 1/4 of an inch away. And then these two little guys in here, these are 1/8 of an inch. So these are like your edge stitching positions. But I love having all of these marks everywhere. It makes things nice and easy for moving things around and using these as guides instead of marking all your lines. Does that make sense? Okay, you'll see. And this little guy here, if you are not familiar with this is the new magnifying lens set. Because I'm in a great position, I will go ahead and show you. So this will allow me to magnify and get zoom way in. So this comes in with 3 different strengths. I'm going to go ahead and move it out of the way for this so you guys can see. And I'm going to go ahead and move the camera over so that you can see the whole stitch happening. All right. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to choose a decorative stitch and go ahead and stitch on this out. So I'm keeping my line right down the center. Now, one thing too is when you are doing decorative stitching or anything like that, the PFAFF machines, they sew very, very well. And as you see, I am doing very little manhandling. I am really letting the PFAFF do the work. So it really is doing the heavy lifting for me. And I may need to kick it into gear down at the base here once or twice. But for the most part, I don't have to manhandle my fabric in order to keep it straight. So I'm hitting my scissors so it'll finish the stitch. I'm hitting the scissors, the cutter. I'm hitting the cutter so that it will finish the stitch. It makes a knot, it cuts the thread, and it lifts the foot. So you see how nice and straight that is without the manhandling? A lot of us tend to get into trouble because we're trying to control it instead of letting the feed ducts or feed teeth do the job. Now, especially if you are coming from an older machine, those older machines, you have to almost help pull it through. And that's a good indication that you are on a machine that needs to be upgraded. Because if it requires 2 hands to pull your fabric through, your machine is not doing the work. It's not doing the job correctly. All right. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to choose a different stitch. So I'm going to choose a different stitch. And what's nice here is now I can choose one of these lines and line it up with one of these, this marking line right here. So what I'm saying too about not manhandling it is pretty much once everything goes back here, I'm out of it, it's done, it's over. So all the control happens up here. In here. So if I'm here trying to control my fabric or I'm here trying to control my fabric, that means your machine's not doing the job. Because you'll watch, my hands will be just kind of hovering here and you'll see just how little I have to work. So here I'm getting a little off course, so I'm going to give it a nudge because down here is where everything happens. Here is, it's too late to really do anything. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and touch my cutter once I get down to the bottom. I'm going to touch the cutter. I'm going to wait one more. So as soon as it starts, I can touch my cutter, and it's going to finish the stitch. This is my favorite function. It tickles me to no end, and still, you know, I've had this feature for like 20 years, and I still squeal every time it happens. So now if you'll see, I can either line up this mark to my next line, or I can line up the center of this stitch to this line. And let's say I wanted to turn a corner. So I'm just going to go do a straight stitch so I can show you how to use these cross lines. I got a question that says, what material are you using? I will show you the fabric that I am using. And can you repeat what you're making? Yes, I will repeat what I'm making. It's a little bit of a mystery project, so you'll see it as we're making it along. But we are making like one of those, I know you've seen them before. One of these quilts. So one of these little wreaths. So I know you've seen them before, but I've only ever seen them done with just fabric and not necessarily decorative stitching or embroidery. So that's what I've been playing with. So I'm going to go to a straight stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and start. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn my corner. So I'm lining up along the edge there so I can get a nice straight corner. And now I can go and let's say I want to do a 1/4 of an inch away. So that would be my first line. And because I want to stop a 1/4 of an inch from the bottom, I'm going to use the bottom of my multi-line foot. So once that gets here, then I can go ahead and turn my corner. So this is great if you're doing like echo quilting or anything like that. It is, having these little marks are amazing. All right. Are there any other questions about the multifunction or the multi-line foot? So this little guy here, or multi-line foot. All right. So the fabric that I am using it is just kind of this, I got it at a quilt shop. I do not know exactly what it's called, but it is like a cotton weight, but it has this little metallic that's going all through it. So it's just a fun little holiday fabric. But I did get it at a quilt shop, and I've seen it at quite a few different quilt shops. And they have kind of a silver and a gold. So this is the silvery, and then this is more the gold. So again, great little accents for holiday fabric. So again, visit your local quilt shops. Big fan of that. All right. So one of the things too is, if anybody knows me, I am pretty impatient when I come to sewing. I want to hurry up and get as much done as I can. So that's where I kind of now move into embroidery. So I can stitch this out, and there are times where I'm in the mood where I just want to stitch things out. But one thing that you should know me, and Brian can attest to this because he came in while I was still sewing, is when I when I sew, and especially when I do decorative stitching, okay, let me just grab decorative, is because the PFAFF is so precise and in such control that I will often sew like this. I'll hit my start stop and I sew like this. So there are times where I just want to sit and watch it stitch because I find it extremely relaxing. So there are times that I do like to sit and sew, but most of the time I am busy or I'm working on multiple projects at the same time. So I like to give my PFAFF a little more responsibility. And when I do that, I do tend to move over to the embroidery side. So this finished square is 6 inches, but these can be any size that you want. But this finished square is 6 inches. This particular pattern is called, oh, I don't remember what it's called. It is called fold and stitch. And there's just a whole plethora of them everywhere. So I'm really not showing you how to make that as much. I will show you how I put it together, but I'm not showing you how to make this as much as I am showing ways that you can vary it because it's available just everywhere. And it is a very popular item. And it also does use the Inar foam, which is that foam that helps everything keep its shape, which I love so much. But this is a finished square, and I will show you how I put this together. So I will show you how that goes together. All right. But what I did when I made my little squares was I embroidered them. So I'm going to come on over to my screen here. And what I did was I went to my embroidery. And this little portion here, this little applique portion that goes on top. So my finished square is 6 inches. And this little portion here is 5 inches. So what I did first was I came over here and I created just like an applique shape. So I just needed an applique shape. So I went to Applique Creator. Let me close that because you did not see. So if I come down here, there's Applique Creator. So on the creative icon too, it actually tells you this is Applique Creator. If you are on an older machine, you may just have this icon of the flower. Okay. This is Applique Creator. And I'm just going to select a shape. And I'm just going to select a basic square. Right? But I want my square to be 5 inches. So I can change here. I can change my settings of my PFAFF embroidery machines to work in inches or millimeters. So it's in here somewhere. As you can see, I don't change it. So units, I can work in either millimeter or inches. My only word of caution for those of you that do switch to inches is to switch it back to millimeter when you go back to sewing. Otherwise, your straight stitch, instead of having a cute little 2.5 millimeter, your stitch length will be 0.37927 because it's still in millimeters. So I personally don't mess with mine, but we do have that option. But I want a 5-inch square. So I'm going to change the size. So I want to make sure that I'm on scale. So this is move, scale, rotate, and delete. I want to make sure that I'm on scale so I can change the size. And I'm going to keep it locked because I want to keep it an even square, not short and fat or tall and skinny. And I'm going to tell it I want to do 127 millimeters. So that's going to be about 5 inches. And no, I am not a mathematical guru. I figured it out before I sit down to stitch. So I'm going to tell it okay. Now this is going to be kind of just a placeholder for me. Now there are lots of different ways to do this, and I know some of you are probably going out there going, why is she doing it the hard way? There are lots of different ways to do it. I'm a visual person, so I tend to just do my placeholders. I can get everything to fit in there, and then I can delete my placeholder. So this is kind of what I'm going to do here. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to come into Sequence Creator. So the Sequence Creator, because I am going to use decorative stitches, if I just pull up a decorative stitch right now, what'll happen is, let me just go ahead and show you. I'm going to come into Sequence Creator. And if you'll notice here, there is a tie-off at the top and at the bottom. And if I were to just bring in stitches into Sequence Creator, what can happen is it will do a tie-off, it'll do the stitch, it'll do another tie-off, and then it'll do a tie-off and do the stitch and do another tie-off. So with little stitches and small stitches, that can get very busy very fast with all those tie-offs. So what I want to do is I come into the Sequence Creator and I will just delete these commands here. So I will come down to my Edit Stitch and I will just touch and hold the delete key to delete them. All of those commands in there. Now I can come and pull with my decorative stitches. So what I did here was on mine, if you'll see, I chose to do stacking stitches. So I like the stacking stitches. So I'm going to come over to the techniques and I'll come to my stacking stitches that I got. So I want to go to my stacking stitches. And I'm going to select my stitch, and then I can tell it okay. So I have one stitch, but I want to change the color because everything is all black right now. So what I want to do is start changing the color. So I'm going to show you 2 ways you can do that. This one, I'm going to come and I'm going to select my color palette. And if I select this color, I can then come and change color. Now, one very cool thing on the PFAFF Creative Icon 2 is I can come in and I can tell it what brand of thread that I'm working with. And it's got all the different brands available. And I can tell it what color, what thread number I'm working with. Now this one is, oh, I can't tell, 2209. So if I tell it 2209, it's going to select the green that I choose. My camera is a bit blurry. Let's see if I can. Does that help at all? Or is it completely out of focus now? Is it back in focus, Ryan? All right. I know there is a little bit of fuzz around it. I will have to look into that. It is a very, very, very old camera. It may just be on its way out. But yes, so now I have the green color that I'm going to be using. But how cool is that? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come down to Shape Creator. So I'm going to back us out a bit. So I'm going to back us out a bit, and I'm going to come down here to Shape Creator. It has the little shapes on it. And when I select that, I will come and tell it I'm just going to do a straight stitch. So, or a straight shape. Okay. And then I'm going to come and edit my shape. And I want to rotate it to 45 degrees because I want it to be on an angle. I can also drag this circle and move it, or I can actually just use the arrows and rotate it until I'm happy. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tell it I want to keep adding until I have as many to fill out the row as I'd like. Now, this is something that I really like here is I'm going to come down here to my positioning. And with this, I can say I want it centered. Now I'm going to bring this in so that you can see what's going to happen when I hit that centered feature. Okay. So I don't know if you can tell. I'm going to go ahead and tell it okay because I want you to see that there's kind of a little gap going there. I'm going to tell it okay. And as you can see, there's a little gap in between my stitches. Do you see? Does everybody see that? There's a little gap in between my stitches. So on this machine, or on this PFAFF, and there's quite a few of them that we can do, I can come in and I can edit. So I'm going to just touch and hold, and I'm going to edit in Shape Creator. So it'll take me back to Shape Creator without having to start over. So now I'm going to come back down to the positioning, and I'm going to touch my spacing and center that. And I want them to come just to center. Because I want to position these in the center. So I'm going to zoom in because I cannot see. So I will show you what I'm doing here. I'm just going to do it, and then I'm going to show you what I'm doing. I overshot it, and now I'm trying to see how now it's connecting. So what I've done, I'm going to come down here to my spacing at the bottom, my positioning. So this is my positioning. So I can change my spacing. In this one, I told it to center it. And then here I could adjust it. So I'm going to go ahead and go negative for a moment. But you'll see how it'll start separating them again. So I'm changing the spacing. So I'm either bringing them closer together, overlapping them, farther apart, etc., whatever I'm trying to do. And so once I get it all happy, I'm going to go ahead and tell it okay, so you can see. And once again, once I can see that it's going to continue, I'm happy. But again, if I touch and hold, so I've still got an issue. I don't know if you can see it right there. So I'm going to come in and edit that a bit. So I can come and I can fiddle and play and do all kinds of fun stuff. And I'm going to zoom out. Oops, I've moved it, I think. So I will talk about this too. This little guy in your edit, so this little guy here will zoom to the design. This little guy here will zoom to the hoop. So if I touch this one, it'll zoom out to the hoop. And if I touch this one, it will zoom right into that design. So if you're ever trying to get back quickly, yeah, I think my camera is going kaput. Because yeah, I can see that blur. I just think my camera's dying. So I apologize. I will have another camera by next Facebook Live. So it is blurry. I do apologize for that. I don't know how to adjust that. All right. All right. So we're just going to do the best we can. So what I'll do again is now I will come and, because I used the sequence creator to create that, I'm going to choose sequence creator again. I'm going to edit my stitch. I'm going to touch and hold the delete key so that I can delete all of the programs in there. I'm going to come over to my techniques. And now I can choose a different stitch. Oops, I don't need to. And I'll tell it okay. Now this one I'm going to come and I'm going to do shape creator again. And I'm going to edit. Oops, first I want to tell it what shape I'm doing before I edit the shape. And then I'm going to rotate it. So this is my rotate icon. I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. And I'm going to increase here. Now, I'm not going to do all of the finessing that I did before. But what I do want to do is I do want to start and stop at the same places. Maybe I will finesse a bit. So when you see the red line, all that is telling me is that for this particular shape, this line is too short. So you just make it a little bit bigger and you'll see that that redness goes away. But what I want to do is I want to move this so that my stitch starts on the other stitch. So that's what I like to do. So once again, I'm going to go to the edit shape. Zoom to the hoop. No, yeah, there we go. Zoom to the hoop. And actually I can do, there we go. All right. And then I'll tell it okay. All right. So now I have the green. Now with the green stitch, I went in manually and told it I wanted to change the stitch before I went and did all of my stitch creator programming. I mean, my shape creator programming. I told you I was going to show you a different way to do coloring as well. So in this case, I've done all of these in black and I want to change them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to come and select this and I can see here. I don't know if you can see this. I'll zoom in. But it says select same. So this is select all. That would select all of my designs. Select multiple will allow me to, I'll show you, let me show you here. Back out a bit. But select multiple, oh, come on. I'm sorry, I'm going to make it seasick here. Select multiple, I could come and just select all of these and see how it's going to select them all. But select same, what I've done here is I've selected one of the colors, and by selecting same, it's now going to select all of those at the same time. So instead of going individually, I can just select same. It's going to pick them all up. Then I can come to my color choices. I can say I want just to do a red. I don't have a particular red in mind, so I'm just going to play with the color wheel, which you cannot see because that is so cool. So one of the things that this color wheel offers us is pretty much infinite colors to choose from. So the color in the center is black because I'm always set dark. This inner color wheel will allow me to select what color that I want to be in. So in this case, I want to be in the red. And then I'm going to lighten it from all the way to black. And over here it's light, so I'm going to darken it a little bit. But then I can start playing with it and finding with a color that I particularly like. But still, honestly, even though as awesome as this is, nothing beats just being able to pop your colors in at one go. It's awesome. All right. So, but everybody kind of see how I've done that? So if I come and I just unselect that. There we go. So now I have my selection. I could come and bring in another. I'm just going to go ahead and copy. But from here, I can duplicate. And I can make another row on either side, which is kind of how I did this here. Right, so I just made my center, and then I came and selected another stitch to do on either side. But this is a lot of times when I'm out on the road and I see people will look at my samples going, wow, she stitches so straight. If my stitching is that straight, guaranteed that I've done it with embroidery, because I'm a person, and when we let our PFAFF do the work, it's going to do a much better job than when we sew, no matter how careful we are. But I can sew pretty straight, but still, embroidery is going to sew straighter. All right. So do we have any questions about that? Anything you want me to go over again with the spacing or the coloring or anything like that? All righty. So let me show you quickly how we put this together. So once again, I do really recommend getting the patterns, but these are 7-inch blocks. So these are cut 7 inches. The foam is 6 inches. And the decorative is 5 inches. But you can really do so much with it. So like I will just draw shapes and create my own little patterns rather than just following this, because once you have the basics for how this works, there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. So it is really cool. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get this camera into position, and I'm going to put on my foot. So I'm just going to put on my 1/4-inch foot. I would also normally change thread to an all-purpose thread, but I am just going to do a straight stitch. So one of the things with the in-our foam is you can just buy it all kinds of different places. And there is one that has a fusible on one side. But if you don't have a fusible on one side, you can always just get some fusible web. Most of your dealers and quilt shops and stuff will have it. And my favorite brand is always what my local dealers are carrying. So I'm taking these two and I'm going to put these two right sides together. And I'm just going to stitch all the way around. So I'm just going to stitch all the way around. So I'm just stitching right along the edge of this foam. And for those of you wondering, is she going to leave an opening for turning? No, I am not. I'm going all the way around. Overshot that one just a bit. All right, so I'm going all the way around. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to cut an opening to do the little flippy flip. Now there's a couple of ways you could do this. I'm doing the flip, but you could also use your binding attachment. Now when this gets stitched together here, when these are put together here, it is a little bar tack that is used to bar tack. But what you can do, and if you'd like me to show you, I can definitely show you, but is to do the binding instead of doing a flipping. And at the end, just kind of leave a little loop and then attach it with buttons. So that was, I didn't get time to do it today for this event, but it is something in my list of things to do. So when it comes to turning a corner, a lot of times people will clip their corners and do all that to get rid of the bulk. I don't. I'm just going to get my thumb in there to the corner, and I'm just going to press, fold it along the seam, and just get a good hold of it and flip it through, because that will give me a nice corner. Look at that. And it does remove the bulk and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've stopped clipping years ago. So what I do is I'm just going to, again, get my thumb. You can also throw your point turner in there as well, but I'm just going to fold along the seam, and I'm going to fold along the seam so that I can get a good pinch on it. And I'm just going to pull it on through. Look at those nice little quarters. Look at how nice those little quarters come out. So, but it works on quite a few varieties of bulk and heavy, but having it, folding it and then folding it reduces that bulk. So you're not getting a big wad in the corner, which is why technically we tend to clip, is to try and keep some of that bulk out of the corner. But by doing this little fold and fold, it controls that fabric instead of being bulky. So, and when you're done, there is no excess bulk here. Now I should have done the other way because this is going to get a little lost. But here, when we've got this, oops, I cut mine a little bit too big. So when I cut for my demos, a lot of times I just grab my scraps. So my math is sometimes off. All right. So once I've done my little decorative with my fusible web, I'm going to get rid of my backing. Normally I would come and press it. All right. Again, I just cut this right here while I was talking to you, so it's not very straight. But this is how we create these little things. So it's just right sides together, stitch it all, flip it, and then press it on down. So that's how we did these. All right. So any questions about any of that? Okay. Something else that I want to show you. So the other thing that you can do with these is, remember I said I was going to mention the MySewNet embroidery software. So if you really, you can sit and program on your screen here, but I'm one of those that if you've ever been to an event where I'm teaching the event, you have heard me say this. I would rather clean the toilet with my head than do any kind of hand sewing. I can do it. I know how to do it, but I hate it. I do not find any joy in it. So if you do, you go right ahead. But I am one of those that don't. And because we're sewers, we never sit in front of the TV and just watch TV. We're always doing something. So I play on my software. And so that's where this comes in. So I kind of did the same thing. I created a little square template, a 5-inch, and then just played with the stitches because you can use the motif line and pull in a lot of the stitches. The only exception are the exclusive stitches. So anything that's exclusive, you will not find it on the software. You will only find it on the PFAFF. So, but I play with my software a lot as well. So one of the things too that I want to show here is, so with this guy, I chose a metallic thread and a little bit of a candle wicking stitch. And then for the plain, I chose just what I call a little pin stitch. But I'm going to show you a feature. Please let me change my foot before I break it. And those of you who have watched my Facebook Lives before know that is quite a possibility with me. Oh, no. Because I do like my 1/4-inch stitching foot a lot when I'm doing straight sewing. And then when I'm on Facebook Live, I'm switching back and forth so quickly that I forget to take off my 1/4-inch piecing foot, which, if you're not familiar, the 1/4-inch piecing foot has no room for a zigzag stitch. Okay. So one of the things that I'm going to do, and this is a feature that some of you guys may know that you have, but I'll bet a lot of you don't even know you have it. So it's going to be awesome. But I'm going to come over here to my screen. I'm going to come over and I'm going to select the little pin stitch. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to just stitch just this long, right? So I only want this to be this long. So I can either measure it and program it, or I can come down here to my stitch repeat and select Patchwork Programming. Now I'm going to be doing this for the decorative stitch, but for those of you that do patchwork piecing, this is a wonderful feature. So when you're sewing your squares and everything's the same, this is a great feature. So up at the top here, you're going to see that when I select Patchwork Program, I get this little icon of a reverse key, because that means my little reverse function button is going to come into play. Okay, so I'm going to switch back over to here, and my reverse function button is right here. So you will see me give that a go. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top of my little piece, and I have switched to, I like either the open toe foot, or in this particular case, I'm using the star. If anybody knows the name of it, it just went right out of my head. It's the star. So it's very wide. It has space underneath for your decorative stitching. It has this little bar in the front that helps kind of hold fabric down when I'm working with loose fabric. But I also like that little thing because I use it as a guide. So I'm going to butt that right up against the edge of my foot, or the edge of my fabric here. So I've got that little bunch out right there. And there's also lines on it across the way here, and that is where my needle position is. So I'm lining up this top part with those little lines in my foot so that it's lining up with that needle position. And I'm going to go ahead and sewing star foot. Thank you. It is the sewing star foot. It just went right out of my head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom here. And when I get to the bottom, I can go ahead and slow it down. I can do whatever I want. But as I come down, I'm going to touch that reverse key when I get to the end. Okay. Now what happens over here? It's going to make it that size and then stop. Isn't that amazing? So now all I have to do is turn my fabric, touch my start stop, and you want to talk about really just letting it go, because now it's just going to automatically stop when it gets down to the bottom. So I don't have to think about it. I can just enjoy the process. So ready? Here it goes. It's going to stop. Awesome. And then I'll just turn and just continue on down. Isn't that like the coolest thing ever? So again, for those of you that are patchwork piecers, or you make quilt tops and all that kind of stuff, it's great because I will just sew my first two pieces together and get it programmed, and then it's just rocking them out because I do not need to pay attention after that. All right, I do not hear any ooh, ah, wows, so I'm hoping that you guys are at least saying that. For those of you that are familiar with this feature, I know you appreciate it. But for those of you that are not familiar with it, it is going to soon become your new best friend. Because look at this. Yeah, it is so cool. So that is the Patchwork program. So remember, it works with the reverse button. So when you come to the end, before you stop, just hit the reverse button. And then when you let go, it'll program in your stitch length. So it works great for decorative stitching. It works great for patchworking. It works great for all kinds of stuff. Okay. So any other questions about that? We've got about 5 minutes or so. Let me just double check. So I got about 5 minutes or so. If anybody has any questions, I got 7 minutes. So are there any questions so far? Anything that you want me to review? So you all got it. Okay, fantastic. All right. So something else that I'm going to show you. So once this is done, then you're just going to lay it out and stitch together. So I've just laid them out, stitch, grab the next piece, lay it out, and stitch. So you're just going to mark how you want to stitch it. Now, one of the things that I particularly love is the, speaking of which, so here you saw me do this with the multi-guide function, or the multi-line foot. But with the PFAFF Creative Icon 2, if you're not familiar, we have our projection. Whoops, I don't want that. I want the projection on. So if I turn the projection on, no, I actually hit the reverse. I'll do it again. So I will run it through again. But one of the cool things with the projection is I can use my laser. I can move my laser over. So even when I sew, if I'm not using this, I'm using my projector. This was what I used a lot before I had the laser, and I still use it from time to time. But I love the laser. But this is where I'm going to turn the grid off because I do not need the grid for this. I just want the laser, and I'm going to choose a straight stitch. So once I have these lined up, when it comes to marking, I will just put a mark at the top and at the bottom, and then I can just stitch along and connect them. And then from here is where you can come and do a little bar tack. You can throw a little button. There's just all kinds of cool stuff that way to close it. The Sewing Watch theme band I got from Hope Yoder. And so it's hopeyoder.com, I think. She has all kinds of themes on it. And then, so one more little bonus thing that I'm going to show you is I've also seen these wonderful little, let me just go ahead and stitch a couple of these together. So I'm going to, I marked the wrong side, but we're going to pretend. All right, but I know you've seen some of these kind of blah, blah, blahs. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. These like mats. I've got that going the wrong way. The little mat needs to come here. No. So I know you've seen these kind of mats that go around like so. But there's just all kinds of little fun things that you can do with circles, with making mats and stuff like this. Yeah, my brain has gone bye-bye. I'm too busy watching what I'm doing here. But there's all this fun stuff that you can do. So once again, you can use your software, my Sonnet embroidery software, or you can use the shape creator or shape creator in the software. Or if you don't have any of that, you can also use your circular attachment, which is how I did this. So what was cool was I was able to, oh, come on, you get in there. I know you're on camera and being shy, but stop it. Cooperate. There we go. All right. So this one, I just take 2 large pieces of fabric, and depending on the size of the circle that I want to do. And what is cool is I can come in here and I can create all these different decorative stitches just by sliding this over. Where is my stabilizer? Okay. So let me go ahead and show it to you real quick. So the circular attachment is something that often gets forgot about, I think. So I'm going to create the center. So now I'm trying to show you a bonus, and now I'm running out of time. So, but I am glad that you guys are learning a bit. And oh, let me show you the stitch repeat again, because you did ask about that. So let me show you this before I show you that. So when it comes to the patchwork, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come again to my little pin stitch. Okay. So when I'm in the pin stitch and I come down and tell it I want to do patchwork quilting or patchwork program, when I select that, what'll happen is you'll see there's this little reverse button that comes up. And the question is, do I have to be sewing? Do you still have to be sewing when you hit the reverse button? To be honest with you, I don't really remember. So I always do it while I'm sewing. So let's do a little test. So I'm just going to do a little quick test, and I'm going to go ahead and stop and hit the reverse and lift the foot, and this does not do it. So you do want to be stitching while you do it. Okay, yeah, so you definitely do want to be stitching while you're doing it. So let me just review that again. So I am going to select the stitch again. I am going to start at the top where I want it to be. And I'm just going to come down the edge. And then when I get close to the bottom, I'll go ahead and slow down. But I am still in motion when I get to the last one. Oops. Oh, because I forgot to touch Patchwork program. So what happened there was I had started the stitch over again, but I did not come over here and touch Patchwork program. See how it's off? I want to make sure that it's on. Make sure that when you're sewing, that's on. And I'm going to turn my speed up because and when I come to the end, then I'll go ahead and hit the reverse button. And once I hit that reverse button, and it has to be in motion, that's when it will turn off. All right? Okay. So Denise, did that answer you? So let me pop this back on because I'm just going to show you real quick, very, very fast, how quickly you can make these circles. So what I'm going to do is this is a 20. I'm going to pop it right in the center. I'm going to come over here and say, I'm just going to scooch this down, and I'm going to, whoops, you can't see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to do a quick decorative stitch around. Or you may want to only do half, depending on what kind of project you're working on when you're making these mats. But what's so cool when we're making these circles is you can do all these fun decorative stitching, and then what you can do is put them all together. So I'm going to pop this back over. Oh, no. You do not want to use your cutter when you use this. But what I'll do is I come back over, and I'm going to take my other side of the fabric and put right sides together. And I'm just going to pop that in. I'm going to pop that in to that same hole and pop that in. And then I'll just switch over to a straight stitch, and it will just create my circles. So if you want to leave an opening, you can do that for turning. But if you saw, I just stitched them all the way around and then left an opening for turning. And I just cut it in like I did with the other ones because these are going to all be stitched down when I'm done. And so now I'm just going to come and just do a regular straight stitch. And then I'll have this done. So it's so cool. But again, if you wanted to do this with embroidery, whoops, I got a little around. Uh-oh, I moved this as I went. So it's because I'm trying to hurry. There we go. So I don't know if you saw, but as I was going around, I got too a little aggressive and it moved it. So now I've come and connected back at the dot. So don't become aggressive. Don't work it on a time limit. Don't try and beat the clock. Just relax and have a good time. But now what is done, and when I'm done, is now I can just come and cut this around, right? And just cut this around and then flip it. And I've got that done. The other thing is, even if you're going to go ahead and program this in the Shape Creator or in your software, you can also have a circle created so that once you're done embroidering it, you can just lay the fabric on top and then just stitch the outline and do exactly the same thing. So there's lots of ways, but we are definitely out of time. I am over, but if there's any final questions, I'm happy to answer. Brian, when are the next Facebook Lives coming up? Do you have it at the top of your head there? Because we always have Facebook Lives coming up. So My Sewnet, Facebook Lives, and PFAFF Facebook Lives. So if there's any further questions, I'm going to let him go do that. I'm going to take a look at the comments. So hopefully So Tri-State Quilting, you are quite welcome, because that is a great feature for quilters. So make sure that you are, there's too many. I can't read. I have to have them feed me the questions because I get too distracted by all the faces that I recognize, and I just want to stop and talk to everybody. So precise positioning will be on August 3rd. I'm not sure who is teaching that, but precise positioning on August 3rd at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. That turns out it's going to be Wendy Owen. And My Sewnet will also be coming up. I think I'm teaching the next My Sewnet, to be honest with you. I just don't remember the dates off the top of my head. So once again, I will come in and check the comments for questions that I may have missed, or if you think of something later, I will check the comments for a while. But I want to thank everybody for coming, and I hope you guys learned some things. And I will post a picture of the finished product on this chat, this link. All right, so I will talk to you all later. Bye.